also have Monicah Nthumbi, who is a Senior Reproductive Health Manager at Population Services Kenya. Karibu sana. First time here on the show.
Oh, sure it is.
I really hope that you feel welcome.
Very welcome.
Very welcome. I like that. Karibu sana.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having us. It's good you talked about Valentine in your opening speech.
Right.
We had a very, very great gift yesterday.
Really?
Yeah. Our gift was a report of the year 2021-2022 of the ICPD25 plus 3.
Yes.
You see now you talked about the 25 in 2019, now we are plus 3 yesterday.
Yes.
So we celebrated that yesterday. And I and Alberta, Population Services Kenya and GVRC have a great program called Accelerate. That is led by PS Kenya, of course, and we are working very closely with Alberta, who are also leading the GBV component. As you know, they are very strong in GBV. We are also leading the sexual reproductive health rights. So these are some of the very pronounced commitments which Kenya meant in 2019 among the 17 commitments those were meant. So our program is called Accelerate. And when you look at around the whole thing, you'll realize that there's a lot of accelerating the promise, accelerating towards something. And so our program came out as something that we are going to focus on 3 main zeros.
All right.
We know, I mean, everybody, when you go into everywhere, somebody says, no, don't talk about 0, but we are saying we are accelerating towards.
Like
so
how
you must,
practical is that? But yes, it's important, right?
So the first 0 we look at is at the 0 maternal morbidity and mortality. That means 0 sicknesses for the woman. And when you talk about maternal, we focus at the woman of reproductive age, that is 15 to 49. And then morbidity is about the deaths. So we don't want to see mothers getting sick or at least dying of things which can be prevented, and especially giving birth, giving life. The second 0 is about the 0 unmet need for family planning and reproductive health. And that one is measured through the family planning, and I'm sure we'll be discussing this later, maybe when you look at the KDHIS. Then the third 0, and very, very crucial, especially post-COVID and during COVID, is the 0 gender-based violence and harmful traditional practices, what we normally call the HTPs. So those are the 3 zeros that we intertwine, and we really mix them in 13 counties, the most need counties. And we look at them, we look at the interchange, and we also work with the government and with other actors, at least to make sure that the program really works. And at this point, it's also good to recognize that it is funded by the Danish, the Royal Danish Embassy. We call it Danida locally.
All right. Accelerate. We know that whole aspect of promises, because again, I think this happens almost everywhere in different organizations and even in different countries, where they're really good promises, they're very good commitments, you know, and all those things. But then implementation is where there's a bit of a challenge. So you know, in terms of accelerating and where we are right now, looking from 2019 and the commitments that were made, where would you say we are at?
Okay, fine. When you look at implementation, and in fact that is what we were tracking yesterday, we get it in form of reports and what we've done maybe between the years. The project kicked off in 2021, so at least we've done 2 years. And when you look at our implementation model, we've clustered it. Number 1, the outcome number 1 is what we talk about, the sexual reproductive health rights. And people think sexual reproductive health rights is another slogan, or at least something out of the blues. But when you look at it, it is basically the continuum of care from preconception to conception to delivery, post-delivery, childhood, and maybe that now preparing for another cycle. So that is exactly what we call sexual reproductive health rights. And just the rights in between. We just wear a different lens so that we can look at it differently from the service delivery, but not into the rights. Then when you look at our outcome number 2, so that we don't leave anything, nothing drops through the cracks, we have now the GBV element. Now where we have our experts, Alberta, where we look at it. And this is by working through with the facilities, working through with the communities, because it's a continuum from the community to the facility and back and forth to the courts and everywhere. So that is our second component, and it's called an outcome. Then when you come to an outcome number 3, it's a very strong outcome. It looks at the respect and the attitudes and behaviors within the communities. And this is where the deep-seated issues are. So we have like a research component, which looks at outcome 3, and we go ask questions. We have CBOs across the 13 counties we are focusing in, and then they go through and we come out and we ask people who have been exposed and to see how much social behavior change communication has taken place.
Yeah.
We can move from this is where we were to here to here. Then we have a fourth component. It has 4 components. The fourth one is the learning and adaptation. You know, you have to get something, what are we learning from this and how can we adapt it to the next?
Absolutely.
Then there's a very unique I would call it an output on an outcome. It's an outcome. It cuts across where we work now with the governments and the likes of the ICPD and the ministry, the divisions and all that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, we might actually talk about them a little bit, deeper, just to see then, tracking progress for all those. Because again, like we said, it's important to look at the, the specifics of every of this component. But let's talk about the KDH statistics, right? And Alberta GV model.
Number one, we start with the classroom trainings, and we come with models of first training a pool of TOTs. Then they cascade this down to the counties and down to the sub-counties, way back to the facilities. So one of the key things is identifying the gaps of the training, because until you are trained, number one, when you look at like family planning, it's very technical. You'll not just wake up and insert a coil, for instance. It's quite a lot of anatomy and physiology, and also getting to know, and also all those other what would I call them, procedures.
Services and procedures,
So you find that it is something that you have to identify the gap and look at the people. Number one, somebody has to have passion. You may not even just wake up and command people for training. You will call people, you first select. The selection of the person to train is very important, because you have to have the passion, and you have to make sure that this person is also allocated at a very let me call it strategic place. Because why would you train a person who is also just personalized in outpatient or casualty department in family planning? So you first start looking at the people who are working at the clinics and the people working in maternities. So with family planning particularly, why we've managed to bring it, the unmet need from 18 to 14% within a span of maybe, let me call them 10 years, so they are around 14, and also improving the contraceptive prevalence rate from 53 to 58. It's because of this specialized packages, and also with the Division of Reproductive and Maternal Health. They have also come up with packages. We have number one, module 1, which is called the long-acting reversible contraceptives, like what we call the rods, which you put around here, around the arm. And there's also another package which is also called the postpartum family planning. Because you realize most of the women, once they are in maternity, they come back in the clinic. The next time you see somebody in 6 weeks, they are already pregnant. So we have also this, science has come to inform you. We keep updating them and informing them the latest. So those are some of the modules we've really emphasized on and trained them on the family planning. There's also the mentorship, because we cannot also afford, classroom training is very expensive. So you have the mentorship where you go one-on-one with a person, maybe within a labor ward, maybe within a MCH clinic, and you train them on how to do these methods. So at least you get a critical mass of people at least doing the same thing, and we've been able to realize this. Another thing which I must mention, very quickly,
because we need to end the show
I see this. I must mention the community. There has been a lot of demand creation and social behavior change and communication, because there are a lot of myths and misconceptions about family planning. And for sure, it's witnessed in last year's theme of the World Contraceptive Day. It was to aid the myths and misconceptions around family planning. So until we work on those ones and we make sure that we mop out people to come to the facilities for the methods, you hear us, Alberta, telling you how women have to combine coming to the marketplace and the injection, so that it has no evidence. When you go back, your husband will not see whether you took something. So it's a lot of work, and it's a lot of efforts that we've done. And the most important thing to note is that it's a multi-sectoral approach.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So then, that being said, so then how can all of us be part of the accelerator? Just make sure that then we achieve, the 2030 goal of all the zeros that we talked about in literally 5 seconds each. How can we be part of this, big initiative? But let's start with you.
Okay, so in all our spaces, talk about gender-based violence and not shy from it. In the, for example, family gatherings, and I know someone's been beaten, speak out. If we know someone is violated or you're violated, kindly reach out for help. There are the toll-free numbers, there's the hospitals, there's GVSC, there's the police station, there's the CBOs, the different institutions. Just let's reach out for help.
Absolutely. Let's talk about it. All right, very quickly. 5 seconds.
Thank you. So we need to create a critical mass of people across all sectors, including yourselves, who are very key in even at least reaching better masses than ourselves in coming out to support gender-based violence interventions and also SRHR, because that is the way to go. We are all accelerating towards the zeros.
Absolutely.
And we got to get there.
We got to get there. We have no option. I like that. Thank you very much, Monicah Nthumbi, Senior Reproductive Health Manager at Population Services Kenya, as well as Alberto Ambo, Executive Director at GVRC. Ladies, thank you so much for coming by today, helping us amplify these conversations, really, because it is important for us to talk about it. But most importantly, take action, right? Okay. All right. So we will see you. I'll see you tomorrow, rather. The Lord be here. I'll see you tomorrow. Same time, same place, right here on Your World. But until then, stay safe and please, let's speak up, all right? And let's take action as well, so that again, together we can end cases of gender-based violence. But for now, stay safe and God bless. See you tomorrow.